Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to solve the 5x5 Rubik's Cube. Now before I start this tutorial out, I just want to quickly mention that I expect that you know how to solve the 2x2 through 4x4 cubes. If you don't, then you can check out my videos for those. The links to all of them will be in the description. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move back to the 5x5. Now the 5x5 has the exact same steps as the 4x4 does. And if you know how to solve the 4x4, this should be pretty easy then. First step is to solve the centers, then we pair the edges, and then we solve it like a normal 3x3. However, the only difference in the 5x5 is that there are no parities, so you don't have to worry about that. Now I'm not going to go over the notation on the 5x5 because it's the same as the 4x4, 3x3, and 2x2. But I will go over the color scheme again just for reference. White is opposite of yellow, red is opposite of orange, and green is opposite of blue. And then we'll go over the pieces. We have the four corner pieces. There's one in each face. We have the center pieces. Instead of there being four, like on the 4x, and four on the 4. Get that part out. Instead of there being just 4 centers on the 5x5, there are rather 9. And there is one definite centerpiece. So when you mix up your 5x5, you will know which face is which, because there is one definite centerpiece. And then we have the edge pieces here. Instead of there being 2 edge pieces, there are 3 of them. Sometimes this is referred to as the center edge. I will not refer to it in this video as that. I'll just call it a regular edge. So now with the basics down, how to solve our 5x5 Rubik's Cube, let's jump right in and actually begin to solve it. So the first step in solving the 5x5 Rubik's Cube is to solve the centers. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick one face, which I will pick white for this tutorial, and we're going to solve that first. And how we're going to solve it is we're going to create 2x1 bars. And an example of a 2x1 bar would be this one. We have these two centerpieces here. They're both white. That's the 2x1 bar we want to create. And we want to get these 2x1 bars on the white face. So if we use this one for example, all we have to do is move it down so that it's in this right layer here. Move this 2x1 bar right here down. And then just go ahead and rotate it up. So we've created our first 2x1 bar on the white face. Our next 2x1 bar can be created with these two centerpieces. We can rotate this centerpiece so it's down here, and then bring it up to match with this one. So it's matching now with this 2x1 bar, and we're going to move it up here. However, we do not want to just simply rotate it up like this because we'd mess up our other 2x1 bar. So we're going to do a U2, and then we can rotate this up properly. So now we have 3 of our 2x1 bars in. If we create one more 2x1 bar, we will still have one center that's not in. So our last bar that we're going to create is going to be a 3x1 bar. We have this centerpiece right here, and this centerpiece. Let's just go ahead and rotate this one up. So now we have this 2x1 bar. Our last centerpiece is going to be right here. And we can simply rotate this bottom face so that the center is down here. Move it up. But we see that it needs to be up here. So we're going to rotate it up so that it is in this top layer here. So when we move it up, it's created this 3x1 bar. So now we're going to go ahead and move it onto the white face. And we're just going to do a U2 so that the unsolved 3x1 bar is right where it needs to go. And we're going to go ahead and move this up. So we have solved our white centerpieces. Let's move on to yellow next. For yellow, we'll do the same thing. We have this 3x1 bar here. We can simply rotate it up, and then we're going to move it on to the yellow face. So it's on the yellow face, except we have messed up our white. So we're going to move it out of the way, and then we're going to go ahead and rotate the white back down. Our next 2x1 bar is right here. It's actually a 3x1 bar, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it so that it is vertical on our cube. We're going to rotate this 2x1 bar so that it's facing down. Next, we're going to go ahead and rotate this one up. So we have two 2x1 bars here. However, we have still one centerpiece here, and we've messed up our white. So we're going to go ahead and rotate these 2x1 bars out of the way, and move our centers back, just to keep them solved. So for our next 2x1 bar, we have this centerpiece and this centerpiece. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it up, so that's matching. And then we're going to go ahead and put it on the yellow face. So we're going to go ahead and rotate this up face 2 times, so that when we move it up, it's lined up with the other two 2x1 bars. But we've messed up our white again. So we're going to go ahead and rotate this solved state out of the way, and then rotate it back with an unsolved 3x1 bar. Our last 2x1 bar is actually going to be this 3x1 bar, because it's the last one here. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it down like this, so that when we rotate this centerpiece down, it's matching. So next we're going to go ahead and rotate it up, which in this case we do not want to rotate it simply up like this, because we've messed up our white, and no matter where we rotate back, we will have unsolved our yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rotate this up face 2 times, so that a solid 3x1 bar is right above this one. Next we're going to go ahead and move this up as if to replace it. We're going to do a U2. Then we're going to move this yellow bar back. We've also kept our white solved in this whole process. So next we're going to go ahead and move on to the blue centers, now that we have our white and yellow center solved. We can see here that we have these two 2x1 bars here, but they're not lined up. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this one down, do an F2, so now it is lined up once we move it up. For our next 2x1 bar, we can create, we actually already have this one already created for us. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it up. And we're going to be messing up this 2x1 bar, so we're just going to go ahead and rotate it over once. And then we can do this R2 here. So we've created this next 2x1 bar. Now for this last one, once again, we're going to create this 3x1 bar. So we're going to rotate this over. Next we're going to go and rotate this centerpiece down so it's matching with this one. And so now what we're going to do is we have an interesting situation here. We can't just rotate this one down because we've messed up this blue bar here. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it over so that it is above this unsolved position. And then we're going to go ahead and rotate it down. We kept our blue solved. And then we're going to go ahead and move this piece over. And then go ahead and move it back up. So as you can see, we've created this 3x1 bar. And so now we're going to go ahead and move it up to here. And we have it up. So next our red face is going to be solved. We have, what we can start off with is going to be this centerpiece and this centerpiece. So what we can do is we can simply rotate it down, move this centerpiece down, move this 2x1 bar in that same position, because as you can see here, we've messed up our blue. And then we're going to go ahead and rotate it back. So we've put in this 2x1 bar and kept our blue solved. So for our next 2x1 bar, we have one right down here. And we're going to go ahead and rotate this face over once. So that way when we rotate this up, it's going to be in line with this other 2x1 bar. So I'm going to do this L2. And as you can see here, it's in line. We're going to go ahead and move it out of the way. And then bring this side back. We have this centerpiece that can go right here. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it down once. So that way when we move it down, it'll be matched up. So now we're going to go ahead and move it out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and move our blue back. So now we have this 2x1 bar created here. And we're going to go ahead and do an R2. So now that it is in line. However, we've messed up our blue. So we're going to go ahead and move it out of the way, and do an R2 again to solve our centers. And we have kept these 2x1 bars solved. So now we're on to our last 2x1 bar, which is going to be a 3x1 bar actually. We can pair this centerpiece up with this one by simply rotating it down, moving it off of the red face, moving this bar out of the way so that we can solve our blue centers. So now as you can see here, we have these two centers are solved, and our red centerpiece is right here. So we're going to go ahead and do an F2, and then we're going to go ahead and move it up. However, we've messed up our blue centerpiece, so we're going to go ahead and rotate this out of the way so we can solve our blue. So now we have this last 3x1 bar here. Instead of just rotating it up like I said before, because we messed up our blue, and there's nowhere on the red face where it's not already solved, we're going to go ahead and move it back, and we're going to put this 3x1 bar underneath one of these already solved 3x1 bars, like this. Next, we're going to go ahead and rotate it up, do a U2 to get that solved bar out of the way, and bring it back. So we've kept our blue center solved and our red center solved. Do our last two centers. We have the green and orange. And we're going to go ahead and solve the green. And the last two centers, when we solve one, the other one is automatically going to be solved with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and find a green 2x1 bar, which we have one right here. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing that we've always been doing. We're going to go ahead and rotate this face over once so that this 2x1 bar is going to be in line with it. We're going to go ahead and move it up. We're going to move this solved 2x1 bar out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and rotate this unsolved state back. So we just moved this 2x1 bar out of the green face. Now I moved it out because it was not in the correct line. So now we're going to go ahead and move it back in. And we're going to go ahead and do that by rotating this face up once, so that when we rotate it up, it will be in line. Then we're going to go ahead and rotate it out of the way. And to solve our centers, rotate it back. So now we're on to the last 3x1 bar here. Now the last 3x1 bar on the 5x5 is a little interesting. Let's just go ahead and start by solving it. Let's put this 2x1 bar up here. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this over so that it is above an already solved position. I'm going to move it up. I'm going to do a U2 to get that solved position out of the way. And to solve our centers, we're going to go ahead and rotate it back. So we have all but one center left. When you have just one center left, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make this centerpiece in this top left-hand corner. And we're going to put this centerpiece in the bottom left-hand corner. Then what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this piece up onto the green face. We're going to rotate this solved 3x1 bar out of the way, so it's back in line here. We can rotate it down so we solve our centers again. So now we have this 3x1 bar, which is what we want. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it over so that we have this solved 3x1 bar above it. We're going to move it up. Going to do a U2 to move that solved 3x1 bar out of the way. We're going to solve our centers. So we've solved all of our centers on the 5x5 Rubik's Cube. The next step in solving the 5x5 Rubik's Cube is to pair the edges. Now we're going to go ahead and start off with the red and blue edge, since we have one right here, and right here. We're going to pair this one with this edge here first. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing that we do on the 4x4. We're going to make sure that when we rotate it down, like this, the blue is facing the red. The red is not facing the red. So now that we have that position correctly, we're going to go ahead and slice it over. So now that it is paired, we're going to move it into this top layer here. And then we're going to go ahead and replace it with an unsolved edge. Move that unsolved edge back down. and solve our centers. So we have this last red and blue edge. We have the red and blue edges right here. So we're going to go ahead and rotate that down. So now it needs to cross from where it needs to go. Go ahead and slice it over so that it's paired. Move it up into this top layer. Bring down an unsolved edge and solve our centers. Next here we have this yellow and green edge, yellow and green. However, notice that we have a flipped yellow and green edge here. This one's supposed to go here. But it does not matter because this edge needs to go here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rotate this edge down so that it is no longer on this top face. Rotate this top face over and move this edge back. So as you can see here, it's where it needs to go. It needs to go right here. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it over. Put it up into this top layer here. Move an unsolved edge into its position. Move that unsolved edge back and solve our centers. So we're going to go ahead and solve the last part of this yellow and green edge. We have yellow and green right here as well. So we're going to go ahead and bring this yellow and green edge over. However, when we rotate it down, we notice that the yellow is facing the yellow, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to move this edge up into this top layer, do a U prime, move this edge that is still on this right face, and do an R2. So as you can see here, this edge is where it needs to go. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it over. Move it up into this top layer here. Move an unsolved edge back in its position. Move the unsolved edge down and solve our centers. Next we have here this white and orange edge. We have white and orange right here as well. So we'll go ahead and solve that next. We can simply get it over down here by moving it over once and then bringing it down to this layer. So now we know it needs to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it over. So now it's paired. Move it up into this top layer here. Move an unsolved edge down into that same position again and solve for centers. So the last white and orange edge is right here. And this other part is right here. However, when we notice that when we're going to rotate it down, it's a cross. And we don't want that. We want it to be diagonal right here like this. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did before. We're going to move it in the top layer, do a U prime, move that edge so that it's still on the top and still on the right layer, and do an R2. So now it needs to go here. So we're just going to go ahead and slice it over, move it up into this top layer, bring an unsolved edge down, and solve our centers. Our next edge is going to be this white and green edge. We already have these two paired, so that's something else you don't have to worry about. And our last white and green edge is right here. When we rotate it up, it is in the incorrect position. The white is facing the white, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and rotate it up into this top layer here. Do a U prime. Move it so that's still on this right layer here. Do an R2. So I'm going to go ahead and slice over this edge so that it is between these two. So as you can see here, it's solved. We're going to move it up into this top layer. Move an unsolved edge into its position. Move it back, and then solve our centers. We have this yellow and red edge here, and yellow and red. So we can simply just rotate this yellow and red edge down once. So now as you can see here, this is where it needs to go. So to go ahead and slice it over, move it up into this top layer, move an unsolved edge over here, bring it down, and then solve our centers. So our last yellow and red edge is right here. Here's our other yellow and red edge. We notice once again that when we rotate it down, it's in the incorrect position. This needs to be up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing as we've always done. move it up into this top layer, do a U prime, move the edge that's still on the right face, but just in a different way, and do an R2. So now as you can see here, we can go ahead and slice this over, move it up into this top layer here, bring an unsolved edge down, and solve our centers. So next we have green and orange, and green and orange. So we're going to pair that edge next. We notice that it's in the incorrect position, so we're going to do the same thing as we've done before. Rotate it up into the top layer, U prime, move it so that it's still on this right layer here, and do an R2. So now we notice that's where it needs to go. Slice it over. It's paired. We put it up into this top layer here, move an unsolved edge in its position, bring it back, and solve our centers. So next here we have yellow and green, and yellow and green. So next here we have green and red, green and red. So we're going to go ahead and move this into the top layer here. And go ahead and bring it over, so that we move it down, it's in the same face. However, we notice that the red is with the red, and we do not want that. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up, U prime, move it so that it goes into this back layer here, and do an R2. So I'm going to slice this over now that it's in the correct position. And so we have this moving up, move an unsolved edge back down, and solve our centers. So we're on our last two edges here. And on the last two edges of the 5x5, it's a little more difficult. You have to use algorithms to solve them, because there are no unsolved edges in the top layers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do two algorithms to solve these edges. Now there are many different cases you might have. This is just one of them. Basically in every single case, you might have a flipped edge so that the yellow and blue, the yellow needs to be up here and the blue down here. And you have an edge that needs to go over here, like this orange and blue. It needs to go over here. So what we're going to do in each case is we're going to first put the edge over where it needs to go, and then we're going to unflip any edges. So we can see here that this orange and blue edge needs to go over here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put that on our right side, so that the edge is on the right side, which it is. So now holding out with in our up face, we can do this algorithm. 2 left layers prime, U2. 2 left layers prime, U2, F2. 2 left layers prime, F2. 2 right layers, U2. 2 right layers prime, U2. 2 left layers 2 times. So as you can see here, we put this orange and blue edge from here to here. And so now we're going to turn our attention to this last edge, which is flipped. The yellow and blue needs to be here, and this yellow needs to be here, and the blue here. Now, this is just one of the cases you might run into here, and so what we're going to do is we're going to hold this flipped edge, so that it is in this top layer here, and it's going to be facing us. And we're going to do this algorithm. 2 right layers prime, U2, 2 left layers, F2, 2 left layers prime, F2, 2 right layers 2 times, U2, R, U2, 2 right layers prime, U2, F2, 2 left layers 2 times, F2. So as you can see here, we have solved all of our edges. So the last step to solving the 5x5 Rubik's Cube is to solve it like a regular 3x3. Now there will not be any parities at all on the 5x5 like there were on the 4x4. Because remember I said earlier that on the 5x5 there is one definite center defining that face. On the 4x4 there is not. So you would just solve it like a regular 3x3 Rubik's Cube, and then you will be finished. Alright, so you solved your 5x5 Rubik's Cube. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button down below. And please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it.